Today we're going to talk about Jews in early Nazi Germany, the first anti-Jewish laws, the boycott, and the overall treatment of Jews in Nazi Germany. Um, as you guys will remember, in 1933, as soon as Hitler came to power, as when he was appointed as chancellor, he passed civil laws. The first way he attacked the Jews was by passing a law called the Law for the Restoration of Professional Civil Service, which is a law that primarily bans Jews from jobs as civil servants. And these are jobs that are like teachers, lawyers, these are jobs in government, any jobs that are considered influential. Also, look at this, press and radio. Why do we want to keep Jews from the press and the radio? Because they can influence people. If they have an influence over our society, then they have a place in our society, and they can sway opinion, and they are able to infiltrate our society. And that is the way Hitler viewed it. The Nazis also, later on, within 3 months, encouraged the boycott of Jewish businesses. April 1st, 1933, less than 3 months after coming to power, the Nazi leadership staged an economic boycott targeting only Jewish-owned businesses and offices of Jewish professionals. The boycott was kind of pushed off on German people like it was an act of revenge for the bad press that Germany had gotten since it had the appointment of Hitler in the government. The Nazis claimed that the Germans and foreign Jews were spreading atrocity type stories to damage the Germans' reputation. Nazi stormtroopers stood in front of the stores looking menacingly and looking like you don't buy here. They had signs on their chests that said don't buy from Jews. Jews are our misfortune. And in all honesty, the boycott didn't go too well. And we'll get to that a little bit next, but it only lasted one day, and most people ignored it because they had to go shopping. They had to go to their stores. They had to get to where they needed to get to, and they weren't going to let a few stormtroopers block them. And most of the stormtroopers didn't know if they had the ability to stop people from going into stores or not. This was, also with Nazis encouraging book burnings, and book burnings were often carried out by the Nazi youth. These are books that were written by Jews, pacifists, communists, and others, anything not approved by the right. And then in 1935, Hitler announced the Nuremberg Laws. We have gone over the Nuremberg Laws in the eyewitness presentation that you guys have gotten. Hopefully you are just as confused as I expect you to be, because the Nuremberg Laws were all that. They were confusing. But the intent of the Nuremberg Laws was to strip Jews of civil rights, to make them non-citizens, set them apart legally, because if you're not a citizen of a country at this time, especially in a nationalist country, and you were defined as a separate race, then you have no position here and you have no rights here, and we can do whatever we want to you. The law for the protection of German blood and honor, this is one of the laws within the Nuremberg Laws that forbade marriage between Jews and Germans. They didn't want to have interbreeding, to have Mischlinge. Mischlinge is another word for like a half-breed or a mixed German-Jew child. Before we left, we began to watch Race, kind of the Jesse Owens story, but at the backdrop, Germany hosted the Summer Olympics. He wanted to promote the Aryan race. He wanted to promote the idea of racial supremacy, and he wanted to, make sure that he showed that off by showing off how powerful his Aryans were, especially against the Jews, blacks, and he, felt that he'd be able to do that. But the Americans were threatening to pull out because they did not like, as the Olympic Committee, did not like the fact that he was really pushing, Jews and blacks out, and also some of the things that he was doing was not looked favorably upon by the Olympic Committee. He was threatened by the boycott, and so then, eventually he and between Goering and also his minister of propaganda, Goebbels, backed down because they needed America's support. Because at that point in time, America being the world power, of America backed out of the Olympics, everyone else would also back out of the Olympics. And as you know, Jesse Owens showed up, won a number of gold medals in the relay, the broad jump, and really showed up Hitler, and Hitler refused to shake his hand at this event. So here are policies from 1933 to 1939. When Hitler comes to power, he begins an attack on Jews. The first is the Jewish boycott. It takes place in April of 1933. He used members of the SA, the brown shirts, to stand up for the shops. You cannot enter here if you are a good law-abiding German. That was kind of the push. But most people knew the SA wouldn't do anything because they're not going to attack their own people. Jews were made to use separate seats on buses, trains, and were banned from public places like parks and cafes. Let's see if anyone can send me a remind text telling me what this is like in America. The first anti-Jewish law was called the Restoration of the Professional Civil Service, and of course this is civil service not being allowed to work in civil service jobs. Jews couldn't join in the Chamber of Culture, the German Labor Front. Again, you're not a citizen, you can't participate. Here's some imagery of Jewish businessmen who are forced to march, carrying, their own carrying signs that the SA were making for them, forcing them to carry them around, saying "Don't buy from Jews, shop in German businessmen, shop in German businesses." Look at the signs. I mean, anywhere where you see where it says Juden, that's referring to Jews. This is saying, don't buy from Jews, don't buy from Jewish shops. And even the SA, kind of pushing here because they're trying to give off the appearance that even Jews know that Jewish shops are bad and they're anti-German, and look, they're going to be, we're going to make them carry their own signs here, and we're going to punish them. And this is something you see everywhere in Germany, especially as we see other things. When the Nuremberg laws come out, you'll see often when Jews are made to carry signs to say, "Look, I'm a Jew, I'm bad, set me apart from everything else and everybody else." These are members of the SA standing outside of one of the stores. It says, "No respectable German shops here." They often want to paint. If you look down here below on the bottom picture, Jude, which is also Jew, on the outside of the shops, and the glass. No respectable German shops here. The whole purpose of this lesson is to understand and how to explain racial persecution of the Jews. There are pamphlets that are handed out. This is one of them that says, "Attention Germans, these Jews 5 and dime stores are the parasites and the grave diggers of the German craftsmen. They pay starvation wages to German workers. The chief owner is a Jew, Nathan Schmidt. Look, they own shops, they lend all the money, and they pay real Germans next to nothing. They are our misfortune, they are the cause of our problems." And remember, this only takes place in a day. It's a test, it's a toe, it's a dip in the water to see how far can we go, what will people believe, what will people pay attention to, and most people didn't really pay much attention to it. But if you look at what's being pushed here, this is a common tenet used to turn people against one another. Again, this is a step in when we looked at the beginning of the year when we were going through stages of genocide. We start looking at, not persecution quite, but this is when we're trying to divide people up. And then later on, of course, the details of the Nuremberg laws. Guys, I'm not going to make you know every detail of the Nuremberg laws, but you need to understand the intention behind the Nuremberg laws. What rights are most important to you? I want you to think about that. What do you have the right to do? I mean, think about right now. You don't have the right to leave your house because we're in the middle of this coronavirus epidemic. I mean, you can go out, but there are many things you can't go. Imagine if they were holding you back like in China, and you were being barricaded into your home. Even for the best of intentions, which are being justified, is it really, what rights do you have? Do you ever think about the rights that you have? Can you date or marry whoever you want? Can you swim in a public pool or park, play in a park? I guess you could try to swim in a park, that'd be fun. eat what you want according to your religious customs, live where you want, vote, shop at stores, be able to own a dog or a cat, go to public schools. I know you guys don't think much about going to public school, but imagine if you wanted to go to school and you were told you couldn't go. Or how about even leaving your house when you want to? The first laws are the law for the protection of German blood and German honor. And this is, of course, no Germans are allowed to marry Jews or vice versa. And the Reich citizenship law, which pretty much designated Jews as subjects, not citizens. And the law that followed after was the law for the protection of the genetic health of the German people, requiring a medical examination, and they would have to get a certificate of fitness to marry. This would be basically something to show that you were genetically fit to be able to make sure that you were, let's say, if you didn't have any less than desirable or genetic defects, that you were going to marry into the German bloodline. And we'll get into that a little bit later. This is affecting more than the Jews here, if you'll catch my drift. These are signs that people are made to carry, denoting that they are Jews, that they are pigs. And this woman's made to carry her sign around where they play instruments around her, that she's a Jew and that she's married to a German man. You'll see that a little bit later on as well, where they kind of like say, look what they've done, and they've had children, and they're ruining our bloodline. So we divide the Nuremberg laws up into themes. Theme 1, who's a Jew? A full Jew is anyone with 3 Jewish grandparents. That's a full Jew and how you're defined. First degree Mischlinge is a half Jew who has 2 Jewish grandparents but did not practice Judaism or have a Jewish spouse. Okay, the first two, a full Jew and a first degree Mischlinge, are basically Jews. Now, second degree Mischlinge, at this point in time of history, are not considered full Jews. They only had 1 Jewish grandparent, and Hitler kind of still integrated them into society. The Mischlinge issue was a big part because he wanted the first degree Mischlinge to be considered Jews, and the second degree Mischlinge to be brought into the Aryan nation. It seems kind of ridiculous, and it is ridiculous because, look, some of these people weren't even practicing Judaism. They were practicing Christians. Some weren't practicing religion at all, yet it didn't matter. What mattered was because by blood, not by anything else. We have a chart like this. You guys looked at a chart that we had. Please, pay attention to it. Be familiar with it in general. I might ask you what a Mischlinge is, first degree and second degree on the test. You'll see what's forbidden if you look at the picture. Of course, this picture is written out in German, but you should be able to figure these things out fairly easily as to, of course, who's German, who's mixed. I will make sure your chart is in English. Let's see. You have to provide 7 documents to prove your German descent: your birth, a baptismal certificate, certificates for both parents, certificates for all 4 grandparents, proving that they were true Germans. Theme 2 is stripping Jews of their rights of full citizenship. Then racial purity. Jews could not hire female help under the age of 45 as well. This was, the idea of, would Jews be hiring Germans, hiring females. It kind of doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't. But if you look at it, the idea is keeping the racial lines pure, hiring help. The implication is almost rape, and that German women could be raped by Jews. Nothing's been proven to show that, but there it is. Deprivation of income capacity. Jews had to register everything they owned. They were forced to sell or Aryanize property. Oftentimes, when Jews were moved out of places, they had already documented everything they owned. So when they did that, and the Nazis wanted to come and move them into camps or take them out, they would take everything they owned, and they knew everything the Jews owned because earlier on, in the mid-30s, everything was registered. Jews told every Nazi what they had, who they were, what they owned. Exclusion for education was the last one, and branding. This is when we start to see the stars. First, they had to adopt the middle names of Sarah for women and Israel for men. These are both Jewish names, and that would be their new middle name. That way, when you looked at someone's card, their identification papers, you knew automatically they were Jewish. They also had to have their identity papers stamped with a J, and they must put a yellow star on the left side of all their garments. They had to purchase the yellow stars, they had to make the yellow stars, they had to sew on the yellow stars. Anyone who was Jewish, if you were caught not wearing it, you were found out to be a Jew, you could be subject to execution right away or sent to a camp. Any one of those things could happen, depending on who came across you. Why must this be done legally instead of just by a custom? I want you to think about that for a second. Remember, Hitler wants everyone to see everything he's doing as being done legally. If he's attacking this group, they are not citizens of Germany. They are not citizens who are entitled to any rights and or privileges. This is not just people just randomly attacking anyone in the way he's presenting it. This is being done as an exercise of law. Law is neutral. If they fall outside the realm of outside the law, then what they're doing is they were just enforcing the law. You know, that's all that matters. This is not something. We're not necessarily attacking the Jews. This just is what it is. Now remember this. This is a good statement. Not all that is legal is moral. Just because it's a law doesn't mean it's morally right or mean that we should do it. So, to recap, in 1935, Nazis stripped Jews of citizenship, creating legal distinctions between Jews and Germans. The laws, all the three laws together, are known as the Nuremberg laws. They define what it was meant to be German, to protect the German bloodline, and as well, they wanted to protect Aryan blood from contamination. They wanted to identify Jews as not something you could just assign yourself or not assign yourself. It was pretty much told if you had grandparents that were Jewish, 3 grandparents that were Jewish, you were a Jew, period. Now this was because of your bloodline. It didn't matter what you chose to believe. This is when we start seeing truly Jewish persecution, because before there are just a few laws and a few things have taken place. The Nuremberg laws were a large part of the Nazis' initial foothold, and how they justified everything they did to the Jews afterwards were based off of the Nuremberg laws. And eventually you'll see the Nuremberg laws kind of thrown out the window, because pretty much anyone who is and even looks like a Jew is a Jew come later on. These laws, they help set the stage for organized violence and murder that would come later, and how everything that you will see that Hitler has done will be said and be promoted to even the Nuremberg trials, which are the trials happened at the end of the Holocaust, the end of World War II, are pushed off as this is all done legally. We did it because the Fuhrer told us to. This was done by law. Alien blood. This is the last pitch. The Nuremberg laws mention Jewish people explicitly. The interpretation of those laws accuse gypsies and blacks as having alien blood. We'll talk about gypsies a little bit later, and also Afro-Europeans. Laws target other groups later on, communists, homosexuals, Jehovah's Witnesses. These groups are Untermenschen, or undesirable, or under people. Policies were established, pretty much became this policy of governing individuals to treat them differently based on their membership to a specific group. Remember, guys, in-group, out-group, in-group, out-group. It can be for any reason, just like we studied earlier, everything from the color of your eyes, your location, your religious practice, the color of your skin. any reason the Nazis deemed necessary. The Poles because they were Slavic, geographic, racial identity. It could be, again, gypsies, nomadic beliefs, their tainted blood, inferior blood. If you were black, if you were homosexual, for sexual orientation. These are reasons why you'd be targeted. Don't forget it. Please feel free to go back over this presentation, watch the slides at your own leisure, as you will. And if you get any questions, just send me a note in Canvas, and I'll take care of it. I hope you guys are all doing well, and I will talk to you soon.